Okay, well, welcome, fellow commissioners. We'll call the meeting to order, and first order of business is that itself, the roll call. Here.
Attorney General?
Here.
Commissioner?
Here. We're all here. I'd like to invite anyone that would like to join fellow commissioners and I with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is kicking it back to Karen in the office of the Industrial Commission.
So item A, on the agenda, we just have the consideration of the August 27th Industrial Commission meetings, which were provided to you in advance.
So moved. Motion, we have a second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Governor?
Yes, motion carries. Next up, I think my fellow commissioners know that we had gone through a salary review for everybody that works in the Industrial Commission office prior, except for Karen. And Karen is in the unique situation of still also serving as the Securities Commissioner. We each appointed a representative to work for us. There's a memo that came from that group. I think it was Claire, Tom, and Lieutenant Governor were part of that group. They've submitted a memo and recommending that essentially because Karen is still getting paid by the Securities Commission. So from an Industrial Commission budget standpoint, there's a bit of a bargain going on where we were getting more of her pay from Securities and less from Industrial Commission, but I think we're getting the bulk of her time here. There was some dollars left over after everybody else got raised. They were recommending that go to Karen as an increase. I think that it's a step in the right direction. If Karen were to ever step down and then we have to replace a person in that job, then you'd be talking about a substantially higher chunk that would have to go into the Industrial Commission budget. So I'm just flagging this for the commission at a time when Karen may no longer be in that role, that there would need to be more money put into the budget. But I think the rating amount was about $40,000 that was left in the budget, and the recommendation from the committee that we appointed is that we approve applying that on an annual basis. So it would be, I guess, divided by 12, about a little over $3,000 additional comp per month from the Industrial Commission. So raising it from about 60 to 100 is what it would be. But which again, from Industrial Commission standpoint, is far less than we would have to pay somebody in the future.
Certainly, I'd wait to make comments after I make a motion, but in this case, I wanted to say thank you. You have done a wonderful job migrating into this position. You've excelled, which, I mean, Carlene was awesome. She grew in this position and she knew it like the back of her hand. And I believe you're at that same competency level, and I just love what you bring to the table. I'm not sure we've ever paid you or her combined salaries enough to do this job. I mean, it's 13 or 16 agencies, but it's
15.
15
Don't
agencies.
shortchange us.
Yeah. So with that being said, I do very much support the recommendation, and I'll make a motion that we move on that.
I second it. With the only added comment, just as I think an obvious step toward where the salary needs to be, whatever the circumstances. For Karen, or like all of us, we're all borrowed time. I don't know what the saying is. Like, that's the saying that comes to mind for some reason this morning. It's already been one of those days. But yeah, so yeah, we have to make strides to getting that to the appropriate commensurate with the responsibilities. And echo the comments of the Ag Commissioner. You do an outstanding job, and I deeply appreciate the eyes on all the work that I feel we have, and I appreciate that communication, that level of communication, not just with me, with the staff, the Attorney General's office. We all can speak on everyone's behalf. Really appreciate it to you and your staff and your crew, and your leadership's been is outstanding, and we're glad you're there. I wish we could. If there were additional resources, we would all be talking about more, but that's what we have right now, and we'll look forward to those discussions up ahead. And I'll say publicly what I've said to people privately, and we'll say publicly at the appropriate times up ahead. This needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
It needs to be addressed. We're not in crisis right now because we have somebody step in who does an absolutely outstanding job. Step in isn't even the right way to say it. I mean, you're leading this operation. You're doing it extremely capably. But none of us is here forever. And in the meantime, you deserve to be compensated fairly. And even with this addition, you're not being overall. So we'll work to get to the right spot. And I know it's uncomfortable being a part of those conversations when you're sitting here. We're not trying to make you uncomfortable, but
Well, it sounds like it's going the right way, so I'm not uncomfortable.
yeah, no objections from Karen. Yeah. Anyway,
Is there a second in there?
yeah, I led with that.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. I would just like to say a couple things. One is that the team, Carlene, we know, was superhuman. She was trying to do a lot of this by herself. Unbelievable. But with our great deputy, Reese Haas, doing a fantastic job, and the rest of the team, Brenner, everybody else has come on board. And then on top of everything that we see, of course, remember, they're also doing the, what's the earliest date of record of a paper record that you guys are trying to move online? What is the?
Like 19.
1919, so they've got literally more than a century of paper that is being, processed, digitized, brought on board, whatever. And on behalf of the building itself, I want to thank you, because I think the tonnage of paper that's moving out of that is probably going to be helpful.
I no longer have to put any supports in the basement on
Yeah.
the north side. Yeah.
And just as a point of historical interest, in communities like Bismarck and Fargo, the buildings that were originally built at the beginning of the state, the ones that have the most structural capability were places that were the book depositories and the school supply stores and the things with paper, the newspaper things, because paper was the heaviest thing. I mean, even the old buildings that used to do manufacturing for farm machinery and for automobiles have less structure than the ones that had paper. So this building, the Capitol building, is held up well given the amount of paper.
We're lucky it's standing.
Yes, that's one thing, and so we are. But it's fantastic that Carlene saved every little bit of that, because some of that is going into the Historic Society, and it's an incredible historical record that we have. But I want to thank all of you for doing your jobs and doing this big one-time lift to get us up to the 2020s with all you're doing, and the automation around the grant making that you and the team are doing, all the new software you brought in, been great. So I'm glad that we were able to move compensation up for everybody, and then this is the last piece of that. Okay, so with that, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next up is the DMR.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Nathan, good to see you both.
Yes.
Nathan, you survived your first,
2 weeks.
your first Berlin conference, or in a new role anyway. Awesome.
Good. I met a lot of the team that week and presented, met them.
Great. Mark, what do you have for us today?
So before you today, we have a secondary recovery unit. It's called the West Roth Filling Madison Unit. It's very similar to an application we brought to you earlier this year. It's a one space unit, 720 acres. There are currently 2 wells in that space unit. And you can see it's up here in Bottineau County. The red outline is the space unit. And there's two wells. It looks like there's only one well in there, but the producing well comes from the north and it's got two legs on the east and west side, and then the injection well is in between there. And that also is drilled from the north. But so there's two wells in the space unit. They've been doing a pilot project to test the feasibility of enhanced recovery. They've doubled their oil production, and it's small in relative terms, but it's significant to those people. This is a map of the ownership of the minerals in this unit. And each block is a separate tract, but the interest in that each separately colored block are common, so they're undivided interests. You can see here again, in the green is the outline of the space unit. You see the net pay ISOPAC map. It doesn't really cover all of that, but we examined that, and this structure map is based on, or the ISOPAC map is based on interpreted seismic data, and so it's not an exact art or exact science, so it could extend further to the east. And with the mineral ownership tracts being common, we felt it was appropriate to just bring in the spacing unit. It's a one-phase formula based on mineral acres. They're unitizing the from the top of the Madison down to the top of the Mission Canyon. You'll notice on this map there's a well directly to the west. Those space units in the pool actually overlap, but they're completed in different zones in that spacing. So the well to the west is actually completed as about 40 feet below what we're unitizing. So they're not in the same producing horizon. And with that, I think Residence owns 100% of the working interest. So we're recommending that you approve the West Rock Filling Madison unit.
So the well to the west, in a different formation, are you confident there's no communication at all?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, historically, if you think about oil is trapped in these different horizons, and if it wasn't trapped there, it wouldn't be there. So we're confident that they're separate.
So
Second?
What's the depth of that 40-foot separation?
So there, it's probably in that 3,200 feet range. It's fairly shallow here. And so there's between the two horizons, the base of the unitized interval, this other well is 45 feet below that. So there's a good amount of separation there.
And what are they flooding with?
Water,
And the source of the water is
produced water.
you're just recirculating it back
Correct.
down in. And they've got all the permits for the injection for the produced water.
They would have got all that permitted for their pilot project.
And you said their production was up. Do we know at what percentage is this enhanced soil recovery? Is it getting back close to the original production, or is it a percentage of original?
The numbers they gave us were fairly low. They think they're going to go from up to about a 15% recovery, which is low. But we question them on that, and that's what they feel that the pilot project or the enhanced recovery project is going to achieve for them.
It's economic even at those levels
Yes.
for them.
In reality, the ultimate recovery is going to go from about 30,000 barrels up to 90,000 barrels. So it's a threefold increase. These are shallow wells. They're cheaper to drill, cheaper to operate. So it's economic for them.
Yeah, I guess if you could triple your expected outcome, minutes. But that's good news. Will there be others others in Bottineau County that'll be able to follow the lead on this?
We think so. And like I said, this is the second one we brought this year in Bottineau County. So these little structures they're finding, they're having success with, and we anticipate there'll be more in the future.
Good news for the state, good news for Bottineau County. We'll call for the vote.
Commissioner,
yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes, motion carries.
So the second case we have for you is the ratification of the West Rock Filling Madison unit. We did issue the unit order with the contingency that they amend their COPIS. So once this order comes out, they'll understand they need to amend that COPIS. So we can't issue the ratification order until that is amended and we approve it. So we're asking that Grant delegate to the director the authority to sign that order on your behalf once they've met the requirements of the order. And there's almost 77% of the mineral interest owners that have ratified the unit already. So it's well above the threshold.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a slide that goes along with this?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Call for the vote?
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Motion carries.
So that's all I had for orders today, but I did want to update you on recent Supreme Court ruling. It was the Haystack Butte Baca unit that was approved by the commission back in effective January 1st, 2023. It's a Baca unit, and Liberty Resources challenged part of that unit agreement, the unit operating agreement. There was a provision in there concerning risk penalties. And the question before the Supreme Court is, can a risk penalty that was previously recoverable out of an individual space unit then be transferred over to recovering it from the entire unit? And Liberty contends that it had to be from the pooled space unit, but the statute for units then transfer that to the entire unit, and they were challenging that, and it was appealed to the district court, and the district court affirmed our decision, and it was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just recently affirmed that decision also. So it's a win for us. With that, I have no other business.
Short one today.
Yes,
Great. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Commissioner Turner, do you want to just grab that?
I'll do a follow-up with you on that other item.
Just trying to keep you on schedule.
Thank you.
The next order of business is I believe we're closing for an executive session. Motion? This is the one of two.
Governor, I move that the authority of the North Dakota Century Code sections 44-04-18.4, 44-04-19.1, 44-04-19.2. The Industrial Commission entered into an executive session for the purposes of discussing confidential business related to proprietary technology commercialization and public-private partnership.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll call for the vote.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Motion carries. The commission will now move to meeting in executive session.
No, you can say.
Any formal action? It's at the bank one. We'll now meet in executive session regarding business related to the public-private partnership pursuant to NBCC 44-04-18.4 to consider those items listed on the agenda. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, Department of Commerce staff will participate in the executive session. Any formal action taken by the commission will occur after it reconvenes in open session. I am reminded commission members and those present in the exec session that the discussion must be limited to the announced purposes, which is anticipated to last approximately 45 minutes. We've completed the executive session about 5 minutes ago. We've been on break since then. The commission is now reconvened in open session. During the public-private partnership executive session, the commission discussed that item that was listed on the agenda. No formal action was taken during that executive session. Now we're back in open, and the next agenda item is agenda is North Dakota Building Authority, and we have Deanne on.
Both Dan and Mindy.
Okay, we have Deanne and Mindy, and the topic here is the presentation of the June 30, 2024 audit, which is under attachment 3, and Mindy Piatz from Brady Martz is joining us. Welcome back, Mindy.
Good
Can we
afternoon. Yep.
Can we get Mindy on the screen if she's there? There she is. Okay, yep. There you are.
All right.
Hello.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief with my comments. So Brady Martz conducted the audit for the North Dakota Building Authority for the year ended June 30th, 2024. I believe all of you received a copy of the overall financial statement packet, which includes our audit opinions. Overall, we expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance that we can provide over the financial statements, meaning that the financial statements are materially correct in accordance with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. The audit also was conducted underneath government auditing standards, and so we do issue a separate report for performing the audit in accordance with government auditing standards. This is further back in the audit reporting package. And again, we issued an unmodified opinion. And that report is over internal control over financial reporting along with compliance. And then at the end of the audit report package, I would just draw attention that there's another letter that is included. These are items that we're required to communicate with those charged with governance upon completion of our audit. But again, all the items noted in this letter were positive. So there's nothing to point out. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the building authority. I know Deanne's online too.
Mindy, in the report, it talked about the authority being economically dependent on the North Dakota university system and the agencies of the state of North Dakota. What percentage of the loans are out towards higher education versus other state entities? Do we know that?
Deanne, do you want to cover that one? You probably know the ins and outs better of what's going on between all these.
Yeah. Currently there are 2 bond issues outstanding, and the one bond issue, the 2020 bond issue, is all North Dakota higher ed. And then the other bond issue is the veterans home. And so pretty much, I guess I could look at the balances outstanding on them, but so $1.2 million is the veterans home, and $100.3 million would be the responsibility of the university system.
So the vast majority of vast majority of higher ed.
Correct.
Are there other questions for Mindy or Deanne?
Looks good.
Was there any, these things were all locked in at specific rates, so there's the change of it in interest rate environment that we've been going through the last 3 years that's probably not had any effect on the financial outcomes here?
Correct. I actually, that 2010 bond for the veterans home is a economic development zone, or there's some credit that they get from the Treasury, and I actually just had our financial advisors look at it because it's requires us to file and get a credit every payment from the Treasury, and they have been late with that payment the last 2 times, and then give us $200 for them being late with that payment, and it still doesn't provide any savings. So no, right now there's no benefits to refunding either of those bond issues, and we keep an eye on that. So.
And you're referring to the United States Treasury?
Correct.
Hard to imagine they've got time to focus on a $200 rebate per payment, but that's,
We send that in, you can only send it in 90 days before your bond payment is due, and I make sure it goes in the first day we can send it in. And these last two times, they have been 26 days late, and yeah, it's amazing. And they have what, 80,000 new agents they were able to hire?
yeah. Okay, well, any other questions on this? Any other comments, Deanne? Congratulations, once again on another clean audit, Deanne, and Mindy, to you and your team at Brady March, thank you for the good work you do for on this audit and many others for the Industrial Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And also thanks to Deanne and her team. They make it a pretty smooth process and do a good job getting us all the information. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Mindy.
Okay, next up is the North Dakota Public Finance Agency, also Deanne, and you've got a number of considerations for revolving fund loan applications.
Yes, the first one is the City of Fargo for $15 million under the Clean Water Program to replace water meters throughout the city. The requested term is 20 years, and they would issue revenue bonds payable with sales tax and water fund revenues. And based on that information, the advisory committee recommended approval of this loan.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second. Deanne, is there a special new federal program related to water meters, or is this just one of the applicable uses?
This is one of the applicable uses. And the reason that it's on the clean water side, which you wouldn't expect to see, is because on the clean water side, this is considered a non-treatment works, which is means that it does not have to meet as many of the federal requirements. They don't have to comply with Davis-Bacon. They don't have to comply with can't think of it right now, but during 2023, the clean water, or actually 2024, the clean water manager went through and defined treatment works so that any of the projects that met that definition wouldn't have to comply with all of the requirements, which saves those cities a lot of time and money and effort. So that's the reason you're seeing it on the clean water side. And in addition to having it on the clean water side, it helps the clean water program meet their green project reserve requirement that they have to meet for their capitalization grant purposes as well. So it helps the cities with meeting fewer requirements. It helps the Clean Water SRF program meet their grant requirements, and helps the cities have a low interest rate in being able to get these new water meters into these homes at a low cost, and then be able to much more accurately track the water and accurately bill and accurately detect the leaks as well. And now my girls better not take showers as long as they have, because my water bill is horrendous the way it is. That'll come up on the Jamestown one that you'll see later.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes, motion carries.
And
Jamestown?
here's the Jamestown one for water meters for $3,321,000. And they've requested a 20-year loan term as well. And they will have secure theirs with their water revenues. And based on that information, the advisory committee recommended approval of their loan for water meters.
So moved.
Second. The motion second, and this is same program, same goals? And
Exactly.
is it also the same interest rate? What's the interest rate on these?
Yep, 2%.
We'll call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes, motion carries. Mandan?
Not water meters. This Mandan is requesting $5,462,000 to construct a new reservoir and to replace the Collins Reservoir to provide additional capacity and redundancy for the city. They've requested a 20-year loan term, which will be approximately $320,000 payment, and they will repay this from their water and wastewater fund, which they run as a combined fund. And based on that information, the advisory committee recommended approval of this loan.
So moved.
Second.
Deanne, on the attachment 6C, the first page, when it talks about population served, 24,000, plus the Missouri West system, that's a rural water system that has got also that it's 8,100 additional people on top of what's served by the city of Mandan. Is that how to read that?
Correct.
And have that Missouri West, were they part of the existing reservoir system? Or are they
So
being
this-
brought in because of the new reservoir being built?
No, so this is just talking of, so the benefited area is the 14,524. And then the next line is just the total population served by the water system. So I don't know that the Missouri West is going to, that this particular project is going to benefit the Missouri West, but they are a rural water system that does get some water from the city of Mandan. They are a bulk user of the city of Mandan.
But they may not be using this reservoir that this loan is for.
Correct. Yeah.
And we're saying, when they're replacing it, I know when some cities go through this, they've got to spend multiple years reclaiming, or something, but tell me about the reservoir here. What happens to the Collins Reservoir when you say replace?
I just made sure that they could repay it. I would have to ask DEQ because they're the ones that look through and make sure the project is eligible, and they're the ones that go out and do the inspections and have the construction meetings. I let those with the actual engineer. I joke that I'm an engineer at this point, but I let the engineers take care of that aspect of the projects. Sorry.
Okay. All right, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Okay, motion carries. And then, Deanne, you want to move to the presentation of the memo of the ones that were approved by the advisory committee?
Yes, there were 4 loans that were approved by the advisory committee that were below or $2 million or less. One was All Seasons Rural Water that had requested an increase to their previously approved loan, which was approved back in 2018. Dakota Rural Water had had a increase for $107,000 to a previously approved loan. And then Wilton, it was all loans that were previously approved, and Wilton has a sanitary sewer and water main replacement project that had 2 previously approved loans for that and needed increases to finish their project. And if you have any questions on those projects, I can try to answer those.
Any questions regarding All Seasons, Dakota Rural, or the 2 for Wilton? Nope. Hearing none, we'll move forward. Is there any other business before public finance?
I don't have anything at this point in time. I'm just meeting with the cities. The one thing I will say, just for your guys' general knowledge, is lead service line replacement, we have learned is very hard to find contractors to do lead service line replacement. So that's part of the reason that it's been slow going. We have learned as we've gone out and been visiting with some of our larger borrowers. So interesting to learn that.
And Deanne, do they give you any background? Is it a labor shortage or is it something particular to the work related to lead service replacement that is either less profitable than other work? Because they're all.
I think it's less profitable. They can go do bigger jobs elsewhere, and this is on private property, smaller jobs, and so there's just not been a whole lot of interest in doing this kind of work, and they need big machinery, and they can take that big machinery and go do bigger jobs.
You say on private property because this can be from the house to the curb, as opposed to under street construction.
A portion of it is that, yes, they're supposed to be, lead service line is supposed to be from the main all the way to the house. But each city it can be different from city to city. Some places it has been already been done from the main to the curb stop, and it's from the curb stop to the house that needs to be done. It may vary from project to project what's left to be done.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that update. Any other questions for Deanne? Thank you, Deanne.
Thank you. And the background, I couldn't find a very good one, so we're going to call that the Halloween costume background for you today. So
I was kind of thinking that maybe after the Bison beat the Jackrabbits this year, that would be, and then they
we can go with
consume our opponent. It'd be, have some rabbit ears up there, but.
I like that. I like
they
that
do
thought. Got to get through this Saturday though first. So.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Which will be, that will be a challenge. Thank you.
No comment.
I just put up 72 points on Saturday. It's just is there a mercy rule that you guys like stop running up the clock?
Look, I wasn't calling the plays this
It was
week.
homecoming week, trying to impress the alumni.
We're a hockey fan.
Okay, well, we've got the renewable energy program up next. Reese?
Yep. Thank you, Governor, Commission members. Earlier this month, your Renewable Energy Council met and held their 54th grant round. Wanted to start off with our typical project management financial update for your program. Your second page is a dashboard view of where all of your industrial commission managed funds are today. Third page, digging more into your renewable energy fund balance. 3.1 million available today for new commitments. Cash balance of 7.8 with 4.6 being committed to existing grants and administrative costs. Cumulatively, you've approved 72 projects through the Renewable Energy Program, which has yielded a private sector investment of over $163.7 million in North Dakota, thanks to the grants of the Renewable Energy Fund.
It's fantastic.
Providing the Commission with brief overviews of two projects that I've recently completed. First one today is electrostatic lubrication filtration of wind turbine oil reservoirs. Quite a mouthful. But this project was funded to UND in 2021. Essentially what the project did was to look for more efficient ways to clean the oil and wind turbine reservoirs. You can see here on the picture on the far left, that is a picture of what had typically been used. It's kind of large, bulky. What this project did was scale that down to a smaller size, something that could be carried in a small Pelican case. And they were successful, over 90% reduction in the size of equipment. Next steps, they are going to pursue commercialization. And then Wellspring Hydro, you also funded a pilot plant project through the Renewable Energy Fund. funded
Is
back.
that middle picture you had, was that sitting on a scale? Showing
Yes,
that it only weighs 36 pounds,
yes,
the whole,
Yes.
the whole thing?
exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
That's what PCs used to weigh. First one, compact, remember that one, the size of a suitcase?
So Wellspring's project was to look at extracting lithium from produced water. They completed a demonstration project. I have here a sample to share with the commission. You can take a look at it. This is lithium that was extracted from produced water in North Dakota.
How much produced water to get this?
So I know the ratio is for 10,000 barrels a day, they can get 100,000 tons a year.
100,000 tons a year.
Yes, at one saltwater disposal.
100,000 tons.
Yes. And today,
Volumetrically, because this is pretty light stuff. I mean, this is light like flour, so.
yes. Of course, that's a precursor to lithium ion batteries, various industrial uses. Spot price today is about $13,000 a ton. It has been as high as $80,000 a ton. So that is just currently being injected with our, produced water to a saltwater disposal. Instead of injecting it, they're looking to extract that from that produced water, added value to it.
Well, that's, I mean, there's real economic opportunity.
Absolutely. So we had this grant round, 3 applications recommended by the Renewable Energy Council for you today. If you were to approve all 3, it would total 1.6 million compared to your 3.2 million available. You do have enough available in the fund today to fund all 3. So if there are no questions, I'd be happy to move into the applications themselves.
I was going to ask on that previous one, electrostatic oil filtration. Are they just for the most part magnetizing and extracting shavings out of the oil as it's coming through the system?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. That's, okay, thank you.
So the first of the 3 applications before you today, the first 2 applications are with a company called New Carbon. They are a relatively new company spun off from former employees of TC Energy. The first application is for a pilot project looking at a partnership with American Crystal Sugar at their Hillsboro plant. They're looking to convert beet tailings into renewable natural gas. Of course, this would be helpful for American Crystal Sugar for ESG considerations, helpful for natural gas supply, and adding value to their waste streams. The second application, similar project for renewable natural gas, but this one is partnering with Van de Daff Dairy near Carrington, North Dakota's largest dairy. This one would look at installing digesters at that dairy to create renewable natural gas from the dairy manure. Renewable natural gas in this case would be carbon negative. And then the last project before you today is with Singular Technologies. This is a demonstration project for a sandwich gasifier. This gasifier was invented by Dr. Nikki Patel in Grand Forks. So the term sandwich gasifier, the reason it's called sandwich gasifier, it has really controlled temperature in the gasifier to enhance and make more efficient gasification. But it's sandwiched between 2 oxidation zones within that. So that's why they name it sandwich gasifier. But it can take a variety of waste streams, convert those waste streams into synthetic natural gas. And this particular project is looking at 5 smaller units. And the reason they're looking at up to 5 smaller units is that they can tailor each individual unit to a particular type of feedstock coming in. That, I can answer any questions.
And on the 5 smaller units you're talking about, is this what stage are they at? Would this be the commercial scale when you say smaller, or is these still pilot scale?
This would be demonstration scale.
Okay. And but small but large enough that they'd be able to prove out the technology.
Correct.
With this grant. And then on the go back to the first one a little bit on Crystal Sugar. Their current source that they're using right now is it Wyoming?
Wyoming Powder River Coal. to
So they-
power those boilers
and this would replace that with a,
with renewable natural gas.
yep.
So in their situation, because this is gonna be the same thing that the dairy facility is dealing with, are they required to put that gas into the system to get credit for it? Or can they use it on the spot and still get credit for it?
I believe they have options for both.
Do they get the credit though if they utilize it themselves?
They utilize it themselves, I believe, yes, they would get the credit. They would be working with New Carbon. New Carbon would officially get the credit, but would work with American Crystal, so. they could
Okay,
get-
so you'd have to create a separate entity, and that's where government sometimes screws up on these things, because the dairy is gonna be forced to have to pipe it into a pipeline to get the credit. Which is unfortunate, because they could, if they're producing it and you monitored it, metered it, just give them the credit and they could turn around and do electric generation with it.
On site for their own operation.
On site for their own operation. I mean, I get why they're doing it and I think it's fine, but it would be nice if the rules would change so that we could be more efficient in this whole process.
That's a federal rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
Leave it up to the federal government.
Reese, you mentioned the words, the carbon negative.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
So in the life cycle analysis for the dairy project, they have calculated that it would have a score of minus 130 kilograms of CO2. So it'd be a carbon negative renewable natural gas.
So, and what are the offsets on that? I mean, to get to that math?
I think they account for what the methane equivalent, the CO2 equivalent with the methane would be if the manure were left to naturally discharge into the atmosphere. They calculate, what it would take to have natural gas on the grid versus replacing it with renewable natural gas. And throughout that entire life cycle, they calculated the negative score.
That's great. We have before us I believe it's under
Yeah,
attachment 9. I think there may be a motion.
yep,
But
I would
we're-
move all three.
Reese has put all three of these together.
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Reese, you said that we have enough for these three additional projects. How much would we have left in this fund after these three?
After these three, you'd have roughly 1.3, 1.4 million. And that would be for the remainder of the biennium.
So we continue, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning the success of this program on a macro level in terms of the amount of private capital that's come in. But as we are working on preparing the budget for next time around, this is one of these programs that we have the pleasure of administrating that's got a high contribution of private sector capital in terms of match relative to these grant rounds. And it looks like this is, if the pipeline continues, we'll be out of money in this fund before the biennium reaches the end.
Yes.
So if it was up to you and other members of this, would you increase the size of this grant fund slightly to accommodate for the next biennium?
Yes, I think that'd be fair. This funding comes 100% from oil extraction revenues. So it's 100% funded by the oil industry through the Water Resources Trust Fund, actually. 3 million off the top of that fund goes into our renewable energy fund every biennium. So if we were to increase it, it would mean slightly less available for the rest of the Water Resources Trust Fund. But if there was another way to look at funding, maybe giving it its own bucket and maybe bumping up a little increase, then you wouldn't be stepping on the water industry's toes by increasing it.
Okay, well, we may follow up with you on that, but thank you. We have a motion and second. We'll call for the vote on the grant round 54, the three pre-projects.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. Motion carries.
At this point, we can go into the second comment.
Okay.
Whenever the governor's ready.
No.
Yeah, he has to read the script first.
Okay.
And then once he's done,
Are we recording and doing all the things we need to do?
we are.
All right. With that, then I would move that under the authority of North Dakota Century Code 6-09-35, 44-04-19.1, 44-04-19.2, that the Industrial Commission enter into an executive session for the purpose of Bank of North Dakota confidential business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Move into confidential session. Call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. The commission will now meet in executive session regarding B&D confidential business pursuant to NDCC 6-09-35 and 44-04-19.2 to consider those items listed on the agenda under Bank of North Dakota confidential business. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, and B&D staff will participate in that executive session. Any formal action taken by the commission will occur after it reconvenes in open session. I remind commission members and those present in the executive session, discussion must be limited to the announced purposes, which is anticipated to last approximately 45 minutes. The executive session will begin. Bank coming in person?
They're online.
Okay, bank.
Oh.
It'll begin. It'll begin now, right? Okay. Okay, we're back in North Dakota Industrial Commission in open session. We just completed a Bank of North Dakota executive session. Karen?
Yes, so the commission considered one loan presented by the bank. We do have a motion for approval and a second on that.
We'll call for the vote.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, we've changed the order of operations around here. Our final agenda item for the day is a legal update, and we'll turn it over to Phil.
Okay, gentlemen, so the first three rules up here, these are major EPA emission rules. This is a trio of rules that are all before the Supreme Court, waiting the Supreme Court's decision on state applications. They're all fully briefed, so hopefully in the near future, the Supreme Court will either issue a decision or request oral argument.
How did you feel about the briefing, and which ones did we have the most participation in?
The MATS rule is where North Dakota's out front, where the name plaintiff on it. And 23 other states and a assortment of industry petitioners are also involved in that one.
Any expectation on timing on the Supreme Court on any of those three?
I wish I could give you an answer, Governor, but it's when the Supreme Court gets to it.
Okay.
So that's the status of those three. The next two BLM rules, well, those are here in North Dakota. On the first one, the venting and flaring rule, week before that, the court denied the federal government's attempt to transfer out of North Dakota, as well as granted us a preliminary injunction, finding that we were likely to prevail on our claims that BLM was improperly restricting emissions when that rule belongs to EPA and a different scheme by which they're supposed to do it.
Yep.
And then the other one, the conservation rule, the court also denied the federal government's attempt to transfer that one out. So that one's staying in North Dakota as well. And we've just stipulated to a briefing schedule. We'll have our brief in a couple months' time. For the NEPA challenge, which is also here in North Dakota, still going through summary judgment briefing. States filed our reply last week. Federal government's reply is due middle of October, and then it'll be with the court for scheduling argument. And the last one I've got on here is the WOTUS rule, which has been going on for a while. It's still before the court in North Dakota. The preliminary injunction in place has been in place for a while. That action was stayed. Well, the Supreme Court decided a related case. It's now back down. Parties have submitted all their briefing. We've since done supplemental briefing, so that is before the court, waiting for its decision. And it's short and sweet. That's my update on the major federal rule litigation.
Thank you. Reese, was there any of those that you wanted to add on to, or?
Yeah, Governor, we do have another update for you that wasn't on the agenda. We were monitoring the Minnesota carbon-free standard. The Minnesota PUC met last Thursday. They've addressed how they would interpret Minnesota's carbon-free statute. If you recall, that was the statute that you had opposed back in January of 23, which requires sales of electricity in Minnesota to be carbon-free by 2040. Again, in June of this year, you had submitted a letter to the Minnesota PUC as part of this docket, expressing concerns with grid reliability, with interstate commerce, how they would interpret carbon-free. At this meeting, they made a motion to adopt a policy which lays out how they will interpret carbon-free. One piece of their motion did include allowing for partial compliance of fossil fuel generation if it implements carbon capture, but they left a lot more questions to be answered. How do they calculate a life cycle analysis? How do they calculate partial compliance? And they acknowledged that they were leaving a lot of these unanswered questions, so they did leave the door open for further dockets to continue the conversation. So we will be continuing to closely monitor it and keep the commission apprised, but I wanted the commission to be aware that that action was taken last week by the PUC.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Phil or Reese on those? And do we have the BLM resource management plan?
There you go. Real quick, we have, just for background on the historical context of this, this is a process that involves governor using his specific authority reserved under federal statute. There's only been 2 times nationally that this has been used that we are aware of, and despite the state's comments in 2023, the BLM's final decision, if you recall, largely overlooked all of our inputs, which prompted this escalated response. So back in September 9th, Governor announced North Dakota's protest against BLM's updated RMP, which could impose severe restrictions on leasing over 4 million acres, which is nearly 99% of federal oil acreage. That would close potentially 213,000 acres of federally owned fluid mineral acreage. The protest used input from over 10 state agencies using an all-of-government approach. Upcoming deadlines, October 9th. This is beyond the state's official protest. Governor's office is undertaking an inconsistency review with the deadline again of October 9th. This will highlight the RMP's discrepancies with state policies relying on input from multiple state agencies, including the AG commissioners and AG's office. The power is delegated specifically to the governor for the state to act on. So next steps after the submission of the governor's consistency review, the BLM must then formally respond to the inconsistencies raised by the governor, and North Dakota can escalate those concerns through an appeal up to the Director of Interior, followed by further procedural processes that can potentially halt the RMP's final implementation. So one thing, John provided these notes, so credit to him on this because he has more history on it. But he wanted to thank as well the state agencies that participated, and I was on those calls, and they were very proactive and provided a lot of good information for us to use. That's all I have on that, Governor.
And for clarity, then we've got till October 9th to file this formal protest.
Correct.
And so we're continue to go through that evaluation the next week or so on whether we take that next step as a state.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the BLM resource plan? Hearing none. Phil, any closing comments?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks for coming down and joining us. Karen, anything else in closing?
A couple notes. I would just note for the record that we're finishing early today.
Yes.
And then also our next meeting will be October 2nd at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was originally going to be scheduled for 3,
Yeah,
but I just got word that it changed from
What time in the morning
from
on
all
the
your
2nd?
schedulers.
really.
So you just lost 5 hours.
What time is it again?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
I guess we'll have to find out why. What has to be moved.
Okay. Okay, all right. No other business here. Thank you for the Industrial Commission. And thank you to the fellow commissioners and the meeting's adjourned and we'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah.
Okay.